She dated me back, huh? It's, no, that's right. I mean, you know, time passes. I started with, Danny was born in 1982. Right, Danny? And so, I'm not going to delay this any further. He wants to share his story with you. Danny, here you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I graduated from Brewery High School 15 in Austin, 2001. And policy making. I learned about housing and jobs and living on my own in Houston, 2001. I have fun in Washington. I spoke about housing and jobs and living on my own in Austin. I spoke in New Jersey about living on my own until 2008.
I want to share that I had the opportunity to go with Danny to Austin and speak with legislators about the importance of what it meant to him and to people, other students, other individuals with disabilities, to live on their own, to experience everything about living on their own, to improve jobs, to improve transportation. So I was proud to be and happy to be a part of that with you, Danny. I'm not tech savvy. How do you do this? That one. Forward? There. Sorry,
I'm sorry. This is Danny. This is my house. I'm in outside, and this is my house with my 2 dogs. And these are my dogs, Arturo and Loco. I got my dogs at a vet.
You rescued them from the
I buy games and movies in exchange, and I go to Taco Bell. I walk on my and I walk to Taco Bell and I buy some food. I walk home and I work out at AP Fitness. I got an award at AP Fitness. Name of the month, October.
So So after Danny eats at Taco Bell, he goes to work out too.
I'm leaving for work. Ever since at Dyer, I'm leaving for work, and I come in when I get to work. I help the people of the groceries. I take all the people I take groceries to help all the people. I push the cars in, and I help the biking. I help cashiers with a price checking and returning products.
So, Danny, how long have you been at Albertson?
13 years.
A little bit with his memory in that before working at Albertsons, he worked for like 6 years with a veterinarian, taking care of dogs, animals, and so all of a sudden he decided to change his career path to store clerk or courtesy clerk. So yeah, he's been working since he was 17. So I encourage you all to, those of you that are here, young adults who haven't started working, please start working as soon as you can, because that's what's going to make the difference in your future. And parents, papás, mamás, por favor, no se les olvide, y eso no es porque lo estoy diciendo yo que veo el éxito en Daniel, que es una persona realizada, pero los estudios demuestran que entre más pronto empiece a trabajar su hijo con discapacidad, a la edad de 17 años, 15, 16, van a tener más éxito, van a poder conseguir y mantener trabajo más efectivamente.
This is my birthday. So on my game about the miracles is Robert, John and Mike, and Jay and Freddie. And my celebrate, these are my two friends at Three Pines. I party with my uncle, Jesus, and his friends at Cancun. I went to my sister's wedding. New Year's 2019, I partied with my uncle. We went night clubs and bars, hot ladies. I like all people are very nice. I love it. This is me at the movies at AMC. I see all the scary movies. I love to scare all the people. I fly to Austin. I party with my uncle, Jesus. He's my lawyer. So,
You really have been his lawyer. I'll tell you about that in a bit.
I party with my uncle at Austin, Texas. Texas, I'm going to play against Oklahoma. So, my uncle is a very nice guy. Long time ago, I was born.
And he helped you with the lawsuit against the State Board of Education. So we'll talk about that. Good, Juana, your sister?
I fly to Hollywood. California. I hang out with my sister and my brother-in-law. My sister is having a baby. I feel uncle. All right, thank you.
All right. I explained to Danny the importance of this message. He was nervous, of course, but I explained to him, when we talked about this, that he's got a good story to tell. We all do. And sometimes we take those stories for granted. There's a lot behind all this. Danny got to where he got because of our belief in him. Before he hit school, when he started early childhood, that was one experience. It was good, we were protected. But then we went into school. And that's where I was surprised. I was surprised because I just didn't think of it. I thought he was such a cute kid, had so much to offer, smart, bright. And I couldn't understand why the school had to segregate him, had to put him apart in special classes, special ed classes. I didn't understand that because at home we didn't segregate him. We didn't put him in special bedrooms. I mean, he was a part of our family. He was a part of us. It was unreal for us. We couldn't understand that for the life of us, that we couldn't see the beauty that we saw in him, the gifts and the talents that he had. But thanks to that courage, thanks to that anger and our faith in him, we learned about the law. We learned about the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which please, parents, please, I urge you, learn that law like the palm of your hands, because that's what's going to get you through. That's what's going to help you make a difference in your children's life. And those of you youngsters, if you're still in school, learn that law. Because by the time you're 15, 16, you need to be in those ARDs, even before. You need to be in those ARDs talking about what you want, talking about your future, talking about what kind of a job you want in the future. It's so important. You can help yourself and you can help your parents. Because the truth of the matter, the truth of the matter is that as parents of children with disabilities, yes, it is hard. It's hard. And studies show that as parents of children with disabilities, we wear out sooner. We're stressed more than other parents. But you know what? With what you've seen in Danny, and I've seen youngsters here and other young adults, I'll guarantee you, you'll never be bored, ¿verdad? Nunca nos vamos a aburrir, that's for sure. So, think about that. Okay, so, now my story. I want to, with Danny. Before we go on, because I don't want you guys to get bored, and I want you guys to, I believe in move, shaking, and motivating. So, can you all please get up, move a little bit, shake a little bit of that energy, because some of you look a little bored there. Stretch. Yeah. Yay. Move, shake, and motivate. I'm going to do Pocho here. That's my lema. That's my motto. Move, shake, and motivate. Okay. Well, then I want you all to look at each other. I mean, with your neighbor, introduce yourselves. If you know each other, pues qué bueno, si ya se conocen. Preséntense. It's important. Okay. Okay, so now why are you here? I want you to tell your neighbor, please. Please tell your neighbor why you're here. Díganle a sus vecinos, a sus compañeros en la mesa, ¿por qué están aquí? Why are you here today? ¿Qué quieren realizar? ¿Cuál es su meta? What is your goal for today? What do you want to learn? ¿Cuál es la meta de hoy? Okay, ¿ya compartieron? You shared? Think about that. Why are you here today? What is your plan? Motivating is about having goals. It's about having a plan. So think about what your plan is, because you want to make a difference for yourself with what you learned today. Okay, a little bit about the history of CDIC, the Children with Disabilities Information Coalition. Before I go on, I want to ask, we have neighbors here who are not from El Paso. ¿Hay gente aquí de Ciudad Juárez? ¡Yay! ¿Dónde? ¡Yay! Nuestra vecina ciudad de Ciudad Juárez. Bienvenidos. Bienvenidos. ¿Sabían ustedes que nuestros vecinos de Ciudad Juárez han estado viniendo al cine desde hace muchos años también? Porque esta información que ellos obtienen, van y la comparten en Ciudad Juárez. ¡Qué bueno! Para eso somos vecinos y para eso estamos aquí, para ayudarnos. ¿Ok? También, ¿no hay gente de Nuevo México? New Mexico? Sometimes we have people from New Mexico, sometimes Tornillo famous, we do have people from Cantillo. Okay, bienvenidos a todos, because we're all the metroplex, we're all a community. We all need to help each other, right? Okay, so a little bit of a difference. I had the honor and I had the opportunity since 1989 to go forward with CDIC. Part of my charge as an area director for the Parent Training and Information Center, every state has a Parent Training and Information Center, every state. And the one for Texas, as Jaime said earlier, started in Beaumont. And that lady that started it is a good friend of mine, Janice Foreman. She is the mother of a young man with Down syndrome who, he passed on, but her courage, her passion for starting all this was her son. Our children motivate us, ¿verdad? Nuestros hijos nos motivan. Nuestros nietos nos motivan. Entonces, ella empezó con el PTI hace 33, 34 años. Entonces, en 89, en el 88 empezó el concepto de CIDIC, pero en el 89, cuando empecé yo como directora del Parent Training and Information Center, centro para entrenar información a los papás de niños con discapacidades, a mí me encantó la idea, fue difícil, pero le eché ganas. Y aquí hay un señor que también lo respeto mucho y lo reconozco, Rick. Por favor, párate, Rick. Rick también es uno de los pioneros que empezó con nosotros en aquel entonces, Jaime. Pero no sé, ¿no hay alguien aquí desde el 89 que empecé yo con esto? Bueno, pero a mí me da un gusto ver que seguimos adelante con este concepto, con esta información, con esta conferencia, porque algo así significa que es algo bueno, que es un esfuerzo que vale la pena, que debe de seguir adelante, right? It should continue. That it stands for 30 years is a good sign. It means that we're able to continue sharing information and giving the support to parents and to youth. So, part of the charge of the CDIC was to not only give support, but to build alliances with parents and professionals. And by it being difficult, it wasn't so much the logistics, it was that professionals, and I still see that happening, maybe more so back then, didn't like the idea of parents being leaders. It was hard for them. Era difícil para los profesionistas ver y reconocer que los papás podían ser líderes, porque en aquel entonces estaba lo que el concepto se conoce como el concepto médico, the medical model, ¿verdad? En aquel entonces, pues todos los profesionistas, no nomás doctores, sino yo era trabajadora social, también trabajadores sociales, enfermeras, todos los que están involucrados en la salud de un niño y de la vida de un niño, estaban muy impuestos a que, no, pues yo soy el que sabe todo, yo soy el profesionista, usted ahí quédese sentado y yo le digo qué va a hacer y qué no va a hacer. Entonces fue una tensión difícil, porque no me peleaba, yo no me quedaba callada. Había conflicto porque los profesionistas no les gustaba ver que había una mamá a su mismo nivel compartiendo información y teniendo un poquito más de ventaja, porque nosotros, los papás de niños, de hijos con discapacidades, conocemos a nuestros hijos mejor que nadie. Entonces, los profesionistas les incumbe a los jóvenes, a los niños con discapacidad, que para ellos, para el beneficio de ellos, es importante que nos escuchen, porque nosotros tenemos información muy valiosa que le va a beneficiar a nuestros hijos. Y ahí voy a seguir. Entonces, esa es mi historia. Ya conocieron a Patty y a Lulu, este retrato de ellas son nuestras staff members, son los que les pagamos para que lleven a cabo la información, el entrenamiento, muy buen trabajo que hacen. Ya conocieron a los miembros de la mesa directiva y la conferencia, como dije, pues es algo muy importante que debe de seguir. en 10, 20, 30 años, cuando ya yo esté viejita, que tenga yo 97 años, yo voy a venir aquí a ver, a ver qué sigue, Alina, or you guys, que sigan adelante con este esfuerzo muy importante. Aquí quiero pasar por, I want to go to the memory lane. Un poquito de memoria de los años pasados. Siempre es bonito ver cómo hemos caminado. It's always good to see how we've moved forward. These are the pictures I was able to obtain. Thank you, Patti. Back in 2007, we have, I'm trying to get this work. Okay. So 2007, there's, yes, remind me please, thank you, because we get carried away. Me avisó este joven, este señor, que por favor hablara inglés también. Will you raise your hand, sir, if you see that I'm leaving, anything behind? Will you raise your hand for the English? For English? Because I'll get carried away, I'll forget, se me olvida. Okay. There's Rick with, I think that was back 2007 with parents and some young adults talking about, I think they were keynote speakers. Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wildlife leaders.
Wildlife leaders back in 2007, that's what, 12 years ago? Yeah. Is that when it started?
It started 17 years ago.
17, so 5 years after. Awesome. And then there's Stacy again, like Patti said, we owe them a whole lot. Everybody. She's always feeding us every year, year after year. And Alina, there you are. Was it 2008?
No, it was 2013.
2013. Whoa. Anyway, okay. I just kind of tried to put years together. 2011, there's some good people. Hilda Lopez, she's the social worker at Paso del Norte, but back then I think she was board director. And then previous presidents too. And of course, Pedro Adame. Pedro, is he here? Pedro's probably outside. My God, Pedro, every year, year after year, I think for maybe probably over 20 years, he's been helping us, volunteering to put things together. Thanks so much to him and people like him and everybody else. There's Hilda, there's Patti Diaz, Myrna. Do you remember? Anyway, back then. And Gus. So, little walk down memory lane. These are people. Chris, there you are talking to the news media. I'm not going to ask you if that's the correct year, but there you are. And then Jaime spoke a while ago about one of the professional social workers that helped us at the beginning before, a little after my time. Frank Encinas, may he rest in peace. He was also a big motivator and really helped CDIC move along. So, yeah, and you know what? I forget that there's translation. Oh well, that's part of being a Chicana. Okay, so what I was talking a while ago about formal and informal. This is formal and informal knowledge. That's what I was telling you a while ago where I was talking about the medical model, right? Formal knowledge it's got its place. Yeah, we go to college, we go to universities, we get our degrees, whatnot, but it's all theory. It's teoría. It's theory. And so, yeah, we learn quite a bit, sometimes not, but then there's the informal knowledge, which is just as valuable, maybe even more. La información, el conocimiento informal. What is that about? Informal knowledge? It's the knowledge that you all know here, that we all have about our children. They're our greatest teachers. they give us in how they take what they don't want. And sometimes as parents, it's even, I mean, Daddy's 37, and sometimes we still have kind of a little bit of a challenge trying to figure out what he wants, but we listen to him. And that's what I want. Those of you that are professionals, some of you are daycare workers, teachers. Are there any teachers in here? Yay, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Welcome. Because after us parents, teachers, you have the children for 6 hours, so you're very important. But remember that professionals, that the information that we hold as parents is vital. Because if we hold hands, if we work as partners, who's going to benefit? Our children. Because the knowledge that we have is knowledge that is day to day, where we see things happen that you all don't see. So, and parents, it can be, you know, the typical parents, mothers who are single, grandparents, the parents that somebody was talking about, media about adopting children, those also, all that is information that it needs to come together. The medical model no longer exists. And those of you that are teachers and parents, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how, about implementing self-determination, autosuficiencia. Okay, those are really not new concepts, but we're hearing more and more of them. And we need to put them into practice because that's what's going to help the youngsters up here and the students that you work with. Parents, I had the opportunity to meet Dr. George Singer in Washington. Good man. And he kind of made me think about things. I was going 100 miles an hour back then. And I thought, I don't hurt. I'm over it. What was I making all that fuss about? I'd cry. I was depressed for a year. And then Daddy started getting older, and I started seeing that he was accomplishing even more and more. But I was going 100 miles an hour. I wasn't thinking about stopping to think about myself, about whether I was stressed or not. And then all of a sudden he tells me, you know, I have a brother, and I see my mother, and she's a little older than you are. This man has written really good books, so I recommend them. He says, you haven't stopped to think that you need to take time because you're more stressed than all the rest of us. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? It's true though. I think I was kind of like hiding. I was kind of like not stopping to think about things. So he's one that talks about, he's examined and he's researched the issue of family support very vitally, very intensely. And this book, he talks about family support and family caregiving across disability. I want to read a little bit so that you can get an idea of the kind of support that we all need. Family members provide the majority of care for individuals with disabilities in the United States. Recognition is growing that family caregiving deserves and may require societal support, and evidence-based practices have been established for reducing stress associated with caregiving. Despite the substantial research literature on family support that has developed, researchers, advocates, and professionals have often worked in separate categorical domains. That still happens. They need to stop that. Such as family support for caregiving for the frail elderly, for individuals with mental illness, or for people with developmental disability. I just ask you to ponder on this a little bit. We do need the support, but we need to help each other. We need to learn from each other. Parents have that informal knowledge that's so valuable, and teachers, professionals, social workers have the formal knowledge that helps, but it can only get better if we put those together. A little bit about this. What the State Board of Education, what the school district of El Paso, the El Paso Independent School District, didn't stop to think or contemplate or analyze that we weren't operating under the medical model. We didn't even know. I mean, back then I still was at UTEP getting my undergraduate degree as a social worker. Then I started learning about the medical model. But we didn't know. All we thought about was that Danny had gifts and talents, and we didn't want him separated from anybody else. And fortunately, he had neighbors his age that would ask us, why isn't Danny going to school with us? And I'm like, well, Alfredo and I was always heartbroken because we were like, well, he's going to. Maybe not yet, but he's going to. And it was those kinds of questions also that started moving us, that started shaking us. But I do need to recognize that back in the 50s, 52, 57, 62, many of us here in El Paso do not like to recognize this, but it is true and it did happen. Racism was brutal. And as Chicanos and Latinos, we were really treated badly. And I think that is also what pushed me. Because when Daniel was born, I thought, oh my God. First, he's a Chicano. And now he has a disability. I'm not playing the victim, but I'm recognizing the reality. Right? So I thought, oh my God, we've got a hard road ahead of us. But it's thanks to that recognition that I thought, well, you know what? Danny is just as good and as worthy as Alfredo, my older son, and Itzel. He's got as much to offer as they do. So why should he be separated? Why should he be in a special education classroom? Why? How is he going to learn typical language? How is he going to learn typical behavior? Appropriate behavior? How is he going to know how to socialize with other people if he's going to be segregated in classrooms where he's not going to have an opportunity to see typical behavior, typical language? Okay? I mean, some people take that for granted, but believe me, it's all the experts say and all the studies say, even if the student is just sitting there in a typical classroom, seeing what's going on, he's already gaining something. So please think about that. So that's why we said, well, you know, we started with, well, Danny's 4 years old now. His classroom was side by side. Early childhood pre-K class was next to the kinder class, the pre-K class. So we were like, okay, well, now that he's 4, he should be able to go into the regular ed pre-K class. Why not? I mean, so for us it was, what's the big deal? The law says he can do it. The law says he's supposed to be able to do that. He's got that right. Well, oh my gosh, we shouldn't have asked that. We shouldn't have done that. Because if the school district would have won, they were so angry and so upset at us that if they would have won, they clearly told us in writing that we were going to have to go to counseling, to receive mental health counseling, because we didn't know what we were doing, we didn't know what we were thinking. It was just unheard of to have a child with an intellectual disability in regular classes. Why? I mean, why was it unheard of? He has that right under the law. And he has the right as a person, of the value that he has as a person to be there. So it was very hard mentally and emotionally, Alfredo, right? It was very hard for us. We almost didn't hold it together, but fortunately we did. And I have to say this, Jesus, as Danny said that he was his lawyer. Jesus, the reason we were able to go forward with suing the State Board of Education is because he was a lawyer. I mean, he's our family lawyer, my brother, my dear, dear brother. But he was a telecommunications lawyer. He wasn't a special ed law lawyer. So we had to learn fast. We spent hours in the library trying to make sure and understand the ideal law and what the continuum of services meant, what the least restrictive environment meant. So we did that. We put it all together, and fortunately, Jesus, took the bull by the horns, and so did we, and it was horrible. I mean, hey, listen, it was a racist thing also, because Button, the lawyer, overheard us during one of the hearings say that we were trying to figure out where were we going to eat. And we're saying, well, let's have pizza or spaghetti. You know what he said? I thought all Mexicans had were tacos. That's what we were facing, okay? So it wasn't only a matter of disability. It was a matter of race, of ethnicity. It's the truth. And so, I mean, that only made us stronger. That only made us angrier. Oh my God, don't you say that? Even our friends who were Anglo who testified on our behalf. Mary Mooney, bless her heart, the speech therapist, sign language expert, was our expert. She was even more angry than we were. Why, how dare he say that? Did you hear what he said? She just couldn't believe it. Fortunately, there's good people everywhere, right? So that only fired us up more. So, I mean, at the end of it, we won the war and we won part of the battle. We were able to get Danny what he deserved, what he needed, special regular ed, walking to his neighborhood school. And because of that, what was born out of the lawsuit was, some of you might have heard it, those of you teachers, was a Daniel R. standard. And that standard is a two-pronged test that says a school district cannot refuse regular ed classrooms to students if they if they're not able to manage one classroom. The school district has got to consider what's called the least restrictive environment. They've got to say, okay, if that classroom didn't work, well then let's look at all the other classes. So that the student can stay in the general ed classes as much as possible. And so throughout Danny's school life, he was the only classroom that was, the resource classroom was mathematics. Because he always had a choice. We would ask him, Danny, you have trouble with math. What do you want to do? He'd say, no, I want to stay out. This is okay for me. So, but everything else, fortunately, was regular ed, and that's what developed him into a person that's very accomplished and very social. And so, these are just some pictures that I want to share with you. We celebrated Danny. He was talking about 3 Point Pub. He likes to go there every year. So he goes clubbing sometimes with his uncle when he goes to Austin. But that's our favorite place. And so I thought these are my other children, Claudia and her husband. Claudia's the one that's going to have a baby. That's my daughter-in-law Estrella, my older son Alfredo, and Jay, my son-in-law Danny, and I think that's my older daughter, Ted, with this one. Anyway, what I want to say about this picture is that Danny is just as accomplished and es una persona tan realizada igual que mis otros tres hijos. He's no less and he's no more. And it's important for me as a mother to recognize that, because each of my children are different and they each have their strengths and their needs. So professionals, please remember that's what we deal with day to day. You know, our other children have also asked us for help. You know, once a parent, always a parent, right? And so these are books that Danny has been in: Exceptional Lives, Special Education, Inclusion and Collaboration. And there's a few other books that he's been in because of the lawsuit, because of the Daniel R. Standard. You can look them up online. Good information and good preparation for parents and for professionals. But I do want to share that our chapters, Danny's chapters, have been on inclusion, because that's where everything leaded to. Oh, did you recognize Danny there? There's Danny, that book. There's Danny and his brother. And that's Danny and his brother. And that's James and Brandon. Did you want to say something about James, Danny?
My bodyguard, he died. So I care about him a lot. He's my bodyguard, so I miss him a lot, so much. I got two bodyguards. Is Craig Berry and James the Phaser, Mason and Roy, and my two friends are way best.
Mason, well, James, like Danny said, it was in 8th grade, right? We met James just casually because I went to pick up Danny one day and he introduced himself. And we got to talking. Danny started visiting him. They started going over. They became friends. Talked about helping Danny. And one day he approached me and he said, "You know, Miss Ramirez, you gotta know what's going on here. Let me tell you," in his Texan drawl. "You know, people make fun of Danny. Some students, it's okay, they're fine, others not. But man, they ask me, what are you doing hanging out with this?" I'm not going to say the word, the M word. And then on top of that, he's Mexican. So it wasn't easy. But you know what? I think that's also what built character in Danny. We would talk about that. But bless his heart, the principal didn't like the idea that Danny was going to go to his school, because he heard about the Ramirez family. And he heard that Danny was going to go to his school. And he tried everything he could to discourage us. And he finally says, he admitted, he says, "Your son is an expensive student." And I'm like, well, doesn't he deserve that? What do you mean expensive? Well, we have to do this, we've got to give him a paraprofessional. We were considering Danny using those boards. I forget what they're called. Yeah, they have a name, the Apple boards, whatever. Communication boards, yes. We were considering using that. And so the school, we were requesting those kinds of services, and they didn't want to do it, but he had to do it. Because the law says, and because that's why you as parents go to ARDs, those admissions review and dismissal meetings, they're not hard, believe me. Alfredo and I would always tell Alfredo, a night before the ARD, my stomach hurt, I would almost even have to go vomit, because I knew it was not going to be easy. But it's got to happen. And the funny thing about that, when Danny would sit in his ARDs, half of the time he was bored and he'd fall asleep. But we tell him, Danny, don't, hey, get with it. This is about you, your life. Oh, okay. So anyway, it's never been boring. Okay. So as parents, motivation. What is motivation about? Like I said a while ago, my motto is move, shake, and motivate, right? As parents, why do we move? What motivates us? Whether you have a child with a disability or not, what is it? Does somebody want to tell me as parents, what's the first thing you want for your child in your life? Happiness, right? Happiness. It's not even that they be rich, that's second or third, so they can support us. No, it's that they have happiness, whichever way it may be. You know? I'll tell you what, I know Danny is a little more happier than my daughter, who's a bilingual ed and science teacher, because she really doesn't like her job. But, you know, I tell her, Mika, it's a very worthwhile, worthy profession. Look what you're doing. But Danny loves his job. I mean, he's been there 5 years before that, he loves his job because he likes to work and he likes to buy his own things. And so he's just as accomplished as any one of my children here. And so that's what we want, right? We want you guys to be accomplished individuals. And you guys with the youth leadership, you're already a little bit ahead of the game. Because you guys are learning a lot about empowerment, self-determination, advocacy. Because I'm sorry, but you guys, you're the ones, you're the speakers, you're the movers for the next generation. Okay? Exactly. So parents, teachers, help them get to them. Help them get to groups like Youth Leadership Forum. Help them realize and become individuals, accomplished individuals. And self-determination. That's the concept I was telling you about. It's not that new. And I wish El Paso, we need to, you know, we're such a vital and great community. So we need to jump on these things. Because this is what makes the difference. This is based on studies. Why do PhDs and scientists have to do studies about something like this? We're living it. We just need to implement it. I want to read this to you about self-determination. It's an approach that celebrates and builds on the intrinsic, that means the important value of each human being. Voices of persons with disabilities attest to the importance of self-determination for respecting the personhood of each individual. Research data support the effectiveness of instruction based on self-determination principles for bringing about positive outcomes in education and employment settings. These are the authors. And so they talk about this in their position statement which is called Self-Determination for Persons with Disabilities, a position statement of the Division on Career for Development and Transition. If you have an opportunity on your leisure time, look this up. I mean, nowadays we have no excuse to not investigate. Goodness gracious, all we have to do is tap our little finger. And if you don't have a computer at home, we have the library. All we have to do is push a little button. Like before in my time, and Rick's time, We used to have to go to the libraries. But now there's no excuse for not having knowledge. Please investigate, please find out. I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with the doctors Ann Turnbull and Dr. Rudd Turnbull. They're the ones that wrote the books that you saw a while ago for Danny's In on Inclusion. Really good researchers, very excellent investigators. They work on self-determination. And they helped us put together a book also on Amistad, the friendship of children who are Latinos. And so they are at the forefront also of self-determination. And this is what they say and do. The Beach Center on Families and Disability is an internationally recognized leader in research and interventions to promote the self-determination of children, youth, and adults with and without disabilities. Research at this center has established causal evidence of the effect self-determination practice has on better school and transition outcomes, which can lead to a positive quality of life and life satisfaction. Their work spans from early childhood to adolescence and adulthood and examines the importance of self-determination across various environments, such as school, employment, independent living, and the Beach Center examines the important roles of parents, family members, and professionals in promoting positive self-determination outcomes. Ann Turnbull and I have had that conversation. It's been a while that we haven't, but when she came to El Paso because she wanted to meet us, we talked about the future. Back then, we didn't call it self-determination, it was called independence. But we've got to continue moving forward. We've got to investigate. So with that, what I want to share with you is tell you, as parents and teachers, connect with people who move, shake, and motivate. Move, shake, and motivate. Get with those people. Surround yourself with those kinds of persons. Because that's where you're going to get your support, and that's where you're going to get the courage to move forward. My motto again in living with Danny and being and working with people with disabilities as a rehab counselor is this: I believe that every person who is living with disability, regardless of age or ability, has the right to say where and how they want to live and to choose their system of support. I know that as Latinos, as Chicanos, as Mexicanos, it's okay for us. It's a natural concept for our children to stay with us. And that's okay if that's what that person decides, right? That's where we talk about freedom of choice. I mean, for us, it's not foreign to have, my daughter just came back from Austin, and just a couple of months ago, she lived with her entire family at my house, at our house, for a year. And that's okay, that's what we do, right? As Chicanos, Latinos, we help each other like that. If Danny would have wanted to stay living with us, that would have been okay, because that would have been his choice. But Danny started observing at an early age that his older brother left, got married. His older sister got married, got her own home. So then Danny started saying, I want to live on my own. I want to, that's what he would say, right, Danny? You wanted to live on your own. I was asking him last night, do you remember when you decided that? He couldn't remember, but you started living on your own when you were 27, right? You had your own apartment.
A long time ago, I was married, so I wanted to hear it.
Okay, you can't open a can of worms. And when you say that means you can't start something and not talk. I don't know, can you share just a little bit? You were married, and then what happened?
Well, I was married long time ago. So, I don't want to hear it. So, I want you, the girlfriend of my life.
Well, now you heard it.
That's it.
Opportunity. Hey, and that's not what, how many of us here, what's the percentage of divorces in the United States? Like, what, 50-50, right? I mean, why should he be an exception? It broke our heart. We didn't want it to happen, but it did. And the other family didn't want to work with us to help them stay together. So, that's what happened. So Danny has done this with our involvement, with our support. So we've always taken his lead. Even when he was a child, I would watch and see what he liked, what interested him, what he didn't like, you know, and based on that, I would say, well, you know, let's try this, let's try that. But I would always, even if he didn't understand me, I would sit down and talk to him and explain and explain and explain. And sometimes he would get it, sometimes he would not when he was a little younger. But now that he's older, and you know, since the age of 50 or before, yeah, he started making his decisions. And I'm glad for that. Because Danny, you've been our greatest teacher. You've been the person that has taught us to be better people, to understand that it's okay to be different, and that we need to celebrate that, and that we've all got gifts and talents no matter what. I want to leave you with this. Oh, I still have 15 minutes. I'll leave it open for questions. And if there's no question, believe me, embarrassing or whatnot, personal, I'm going to leave it open for you guys to ask whatever questions you want. But before that, I do want to leave you with this thought. I know that parents, and I celebrate the fact that parents are constant and the givers of unconditional love for their children, for our children. And because of that, we have the right to be heard and respected. For doing so, our children stand all to gain and nothing to lose. Thank you for this morning. Thank you for allowing us to share this information. Are there any questions? Any comments? Are you guys ready to learn?
Yeah.
Okay, so remember this, please. Move, shake, motivate, and at the end of the day, please either get with someone or you internalize.
I want to ask you,
Yes.
Danny lived by himself. Did he has help or he lived by his own self?
No la oigo muy bien. I didn't
Is
hear.
he living by himself or does he have someone living with him?
Oh,
He lived by himself. Has somebody live with him?
okay. Good question. She asked if Danny living by himself, is somebody helping him, and how does he manage? Danny's been living by himself since he was for 10 years now, since he was 27. So he was in his own apartment for a few years, then he moved to this house, and so he does live by himself with his dogs. You saw him with Paso and Loco. But I want to introduce you to his provider. Alfredo, ¿me quieres decir algo? That's Danny's dad. He's been his provider for how long?
4 years.
Do you want to say something about that?
Welcome to everybody. Bienvenidos a todos y gracias por apoyar. Muy importante que todos se unan y seguir adelante. Es duro, pero adelante.
day to day, we talk about things, it's challenging, but I think it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, you know, like I've said before, truly, that's what keeps us on our toes. And we've had, now that we're older, we're having that conversation with our children, our older children. Because they too, they're like, hey, you guys, you need to start talking about what's gonna happen. And we do. You know, we talk about, okay, you know, if we pass on, what are you guys gonna do? I'm sorry, if there's anybody here that has their children living in group homes, you ought to have, it's your decision, you ought to know why you got it. But I tell my children, it'll be a golden hell if I find out, even when I'm dead, that you guys do not support Danny on living on his own, and if he ends up in a group home, I'll come back and I'll haunt you guys. So we have those conversations. And it's important. It's important because we're getting older, and our children, fortunately, our system of support is one that they're amenable, they like it. I don't know if they like it because they have to consult with their husband and wives, but you know, they do tell us, you guys are crazy, don't worry about it. Danny knows a lot on his own by himself, but he needs the support. To your question, Alfredo, as his provider, goes day to day to help him make sure that everything's okay, make sure that things are fine, that he's eating well, that kind of thing, because this guy's crazy, he does crazy things. Like, he'll walk all over Northeast, go to restaurants where we find out, like, a niece, fortunately everybody's in Northeast, right? So like my nieces, my nephews will call, hey, Tia, we saw Danny down Dyer at 10 o'clock at night. What is he doing that at 10 o'clock at night? Does he not go home with a big burger and a big Coke? So, okay, I'll do that. He's got to go see. So yeah, that's the other good thing. That's why we're all in Northeast, because they all, some or another, they'll call us, middle of the night, they'll call Alfredo, they'll call me. Hey, did you see, Danny's even taken the car one day, because he knows how to drive. He knows how to drive. And one day, this other parent, who has a young man, son, Danny's age, didn't know Danny could drive. And we were off in Ruidoso. We went for a weekend. And Alfredo, well, Danny was already living, ¿ya vivía solo? Yeah. He was already living on his own. Oh yeah, that's when he was married. No, that was when he was engaged. And he took the car and he drove to Taco Bell. And that friend of ours was right behind him. He said, he's like, got off the car and he said, Danny, is that you? Danny was at the drive-thru ordering his burger. And I do have to say this, I'm sorry. You know, he was ordering his burger, so it's like, oh my God. So just real quickly, So the thing is, what I do want to say is, you did that, but you know, you do crazy things when we're not watching, so it's okay. But we, you know,
her mom is crazy. I don't drive, so.
Did you knock down the garage door?
No, it's at me. It's my ex-wife. So I wanna, well.
Keep it quiet.
He and his ex-wife decided to be Bonnie and Clyde, and they took off. She had never driven before. Danny had. She had never gotten a car. She got into her father's truck 3 miles from where we live, went to pick him up because they were going to do I don't know what. And she did fine. She drove back all the way. But then when they were going to take off, instead of going forward, she reversed and knocked down the garage door. So yeah, I mean, you know, we have to kind of help you out.
Yeah, very funny. Well, my ex-wife, I want to hear about her name. So, my ex-father-in-law is mad at her, so she can't hit my garage door like that. Oh, okay.
Ok, nos quedan 7 minutos. Sí, le contestamos su pregunta. Excuse me, Daddy. Le contestamos su pregunta. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, for a little bit, today I go to work, so well, I will help other guys your groceries and that's it.
Yeah, go shop at Albertsons and Dyer so you can get more hours of work. But I did want to add one more thing. You know what has really helped us that's been vital? Is that Danny pays Alfredo to be a provider so that Danny can continue living independently through the Medicaid waiver program. The Medicaid waiver program with it's called you get on the waiting list, in-home support services for people with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities. Unfortunately, there's a 15-20 year waiting time, so if any of you know parents, tell them that if their children are newborn, have them get on that waiting list. And for people with other disabilities like physical disabilities, there's the TASH program, and that's also through the Medicaid waiver program. So that's how Danny's been able to live on his own. So with that, with further ado, no longer, please enjoy the day, learn a lot, and move, shake, and motivate.
Don't go anywhere, don't go anywhere yet. I have one more